Hey, my name's Jake Romanek, and you're watching Fishing 411. And this week's episode, we went all the way to Stannard Rock to catch some lake trout. And I am hooked up.
Well, we are in an iconic spot called Stannard Rock. And if you've never heard of Stannard Rock, you probably have never really studied lake trout fishing, because it's like the epitome of the best lake trout fishery that you can possibly imagine. And what makes it so good is lots of fish, big fish, but even better, you can catch them jigging in light tackle. And that's what the whole theme of today is going to be about, is trying to catch some lake trout on light tackle. Oh yeah, that's a little bit better fish. That's what I was talking about. You see that drag just sizzling. Oh man. You don't come out here with cheap tackle. You get these big trout on you. You need some equipment to handle. I tell you what, Dale, if it goes like this all day, we're going to be tired puppies.
Well, you are.
Well, I got a fast start on you, but you'll catch up quick. The water is so clear here, you can see them down there 20, 30 feet below the surface. And water tends to magnify fish, of course. And so does adrenaline. And I got a little adrenaline going right now, I can guarantee you that. What do you think of that, Dale?
All right, now that is the start.
Is that a Stannard Rock lake trout or what? Now that is a Stannard Rock lake trout.
Right.
My word. Oh, baby. Woo! Dale, what do you think of that?
That is a dandy.
Oh, man. Well, Stannard Rock is a very famous destination, particularly amongst trout fishermen. It's located pretty much about in the middle of Lake Superior. It's about a 45 or a 50-mile run from the town of Marquette. And as you come up into the Keweenaw Peninsula, you get a little closer. It's about a 30-35-mile run from Lac La Belle.
The thing of it is, it's just a long ways away from anything. We ran out from the Keweenaw Peninsula and it was 37.5 miles, which I believe is one of the closest points you can run out of. So it's just out here in the middle of nowhere. In fact, if you go straight that way, you go to Canada, it's 110 miles before you touch another shoreline. So it's really, really remote out here. But when you talk about big lake trout, beautiful scenery, it's got to be on everybody's bucket list.
You know, Jake, I forgot to mention that paddle tail I gave you. It's about 20 bucks a fish.
20 bucks a fish. Huh.
We could go out poundage too. This one looks pretty good.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to charge you a gas surcharge at the end of the day, and we'll call it even.
We'll be right there.
Oh,
that's a big fish. That's a big fish.
That's a big fish. I just saw him.
Jake,
he came back to where he's supposed to be here. So
this is your 20, man. I think we might have done it.
Get the size of that baby, Travis. I'm going to try to pull him back.
Yep.
Look at that fish coming up. He's right here, Travis.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Look at that fish coming up.
Jake,
what a gorgeous lake
this
trout.
This is a 40-incher right here.
Wow, scoop that fish, Travis.
There we go, Jake.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, what a fish.
Yeah, Jake.
That baby's
We just
gorgeous.
got it done.
Wow. Wow. What a gorgeous lake trout, Travis.
Nice one, Jake.
You know what? That's the reason why you come all the way out here to Stannard Rock, to catch a big trout like this. And you know, in my
Yeah.
opinion, when you think of big lake trout, a lot of times you think of deep, deep fish. We're in
Right.
35 feet of water right now with light tackle. And so if anyone ever tells you that lake trout don't fight, they haven't caught one on light tackle in shallow water.
There's your proof. Look at these fins on this thing. That's just an absolutely gorgeous specimen.
Well, I need a Facebook picture for this one, buddy. And then we're gonna get it back because the day is young.
You bet.
And hopefully there's a couple more of these in our
betcha.
future.
In 1870, the Stannard Rock lighthouse was basically designed, and the beginning of construction occurred here. And when this lighthouse project was originally conducted, it was one of the largest engineering feats ever done on the Great Lakes here, and it still is today. This lighthouse stands over 100 feet above Lake Superior, and today it's actually used as a research station. So there's a lot of instrumentation built on top of the deck of the lighthouse, and that contributes to lots of the different NOAA and different groups here that are monitoring the Great Lakes for environmental changes, you know, weather, atmospheric conditions. So there's a lot of real-time monitoring that comes off of this lighthouse station. So it's a very important station, even though the historical significance of the light itself is much less than what it used to be. This lighthouse was manned right up until 1962, and there was actually an explosion that occurred out here. There was a crew of 4 guys, and one of them lost his life in that explosion. There was gas and propane down in the basement of this light station, and basically that exploded and took the top off of the station here. So that was rebuilt, and then everything was automated after that point. And up until that point, you know, folks have been living out here all season long, and since then it's been basically a pretty lonely place out here. Just a few boats passing by and the occasional seaplane to make a visit to the loneliest place on earth.
Special considerations provided by Eagle Claw, proudly made in America since 1925. Additional considerations provided by Fishhawk Electronics. Trolling without a fishhawk is called boating.
So we're gonna start out with about 1.5 ounces here. So we just pulled up, we've got what, 80, 90 feet here, Jake?
Yeah.
So we're looking at about 80, 90 feet of water, and you know, I'm gonna use a nice paddle tail. It's got a lot of action. So this is kind of imitating some of the herring and open water forage that these trout are usually feeding on out here. And that 1.5 ounces will get us down to the bottom. So the strategy here to start with is probably gonna be to cast straight out, let this jig sink. We're gonna let it get down, you know, into that 80, 90 feet of water until it probably hits bottom, or there closely too. And we'll start bringing that jig in at a nice steady clip and see if we can work some of these trout up off the bottom. Based on what we were marking, these fish are suspended a little bit.
Yeah.
Looks like they're about 10 or 20 feet off the bottom. So letting this jig sink down past them and bringing it up through them is gonna give us a chance to kind of trigger their actual feeding instincts on these open water baits out here. One thing that I've started doing out here pretty consistently is adding a stinger hook onto our jigs and swim baits. And that's because these lake trout are very good at short striking the bait. And I must just be something with the way they normally feed. They tend to really focus on this paddle tail. And what I've found is putting a hook back here, basically right around the end of that paddle, is kind of a critical thing to basically hooking up, especially when you're casting and retrieving, moving these paddle tails fairly quickly back into the boat. Jigging might be a little bit different scenario because those fish might tend to T-bone it a little bit more. But a lot of times when you're reeling these in quickly, you're pulling it away from them and they're just right there chomping at the tail of that bait. So I like to throw on about a size 4 stinger. Usually I'll use a treble, and I'm using about 30-pound monofilament here just to complete that bridge. So I'm coming right off the main bend of the hook, and I found if you leave it a little bit longer than the paddle tail, that'll help you avoid some of the tangles around that paddle. Jake, you got another good fish on here.
Yeah, this one bit right at the boat too, Travis. So
Oh,
it's a
man.
good fish. It's
Yeah,
a
it
great
is.
fish.
Holy
man.
cow, look at that.
They are so gorgeous in the water. Look at them. Look at that fish. You can see.
Wow.
I mean, how deep is that fish now? You can still see him going.
20, 30 feet down, I
That
betcha.
is so cool. This crystal clear water.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we've done today is we've obviously been casting a lot. We've done a little bit of jigging as well too, but a lot of casting. In the casting that we've done, we've added trailer hooks to our presentation because we've had a lot of short nips. Now, you wouldn't think about a fish, especially the size of this one right here, would just be nipping at it, but that's what they're doing, little short bites. And so we put a trailer hook on the back, and that's really what's putting the fish in the boat are the trailer hooks. You know, maybe 1 or 2 fish have actually been hooked with the jig itself. It's that trailer that's following behind the jig. And I thought this was gonna be an easy fight, and it woke up in a hurry.
He turned right around, didn't he?
It's a good fish though. It's really hard to judge these things in the water. You know, I just haven't seen nearly enough of them to be able to judge them, but this one's gonna be, I would say, high teens for sure.
Oh yeah.
Judging off the size of it there when it literally bit. I mean, I might have had 10 feet on the line when it bit. It was right there at the boat.
That's another big fish.
Oh, Travis, what a big fish, buddy.
Yeah.
Scoop him.
Yeah,
Scoop
Jake.
him.
Well, there we
What a
go.
fish.
Jake, that is awesome, man.
Oh, that's so cool, Travis.
That is awesome.
That one's on a paddle tail, nice little
Yeah.
paddle tail soft plastic. Travis, if you would, you could probably just unhook that.
Sure.
I don't want to sound spoiled. We've caught a lot of big fish today, but we'll get that one back as soon as possible.
Absolutely. This one's ready to go. Give her a little push and help her on her way. Yahoo. Oh man, we just hooked a good one here. Jake, this is a good fish,
Is
man.
that a big fish, Trav?
I think so. Oh yeah, Jake.
I'll have to grab the net for you, man.
This is a big fish, finally. I had 2 or 3 of these things swing and miss today, and I was fiddling around with that stinger hook for a while trying to get it worked out good.
Oh, buddy.
Look at that thing burping, Jake.
Wow,
Wow.
Travis, is that a fish?
That is a toad,
Let me
a
come down
toad, a
here.
toad.
Let me get him in a scoop. Wow. Travis.
Yeah,
That's
Jake.
a heck of a fish, buddy. That is a
Finally.
heck of a fish.
Finally.
What a fish, Travis.
We finally got her calmed down. And it was a lot of trial and error with some stinger hook setups on that big bait today, but I wanted to keep throwing that big twister because it had 2 hits on it and about 3 or 4 follows with fish like this. And wow, it finally paid off, Jake. I'm pumped.
We were messing around with a lot of stuff, and Travis was trying to get this bait to work, and we had a lot of short hits. And he took a piece of braid and he ran it through the twister tail itself. And that way, because what happened before with our trailer is it kept catching up here for him, and then a short hit, the fish would bite right here. We would run it right there. Literally, was that your first or second
That was
cast?
the first cast with that.
Boom, paid off. Such a big
Oh,
trout. That is
man.
awesome.
That is awesome. There's nothing that feels better than watching that big, powerful fish just kick right back down to the depths where it came from.
Special considerations provided by Bait Rigs Tackle, America's innovator of fine fishing products. Additional considerations provided by the Ultimate Sports Show Tour, Michigan's premier sports shows.
If you like to fish crankbaits as much as I do, you've probably come to the unfortunate conclusion that not all crankbaits come out of the package ready to fish. The problem with crankbaits is that they need to be tweaked or tuned, if you will, to get them to dive straight into the water, to get the maximum action out of those lures, and most importantly, to get them to dive to their maximum depth. Historically, we've tuned our crankbaits by using a device right here, the needle nose pliers. But the problem with the needle nose pliers is you really can't get minute adjustments on the eye pull of the crankbait. In other words, it's very much a trial and error process. Thankfully, there's a better solution. Offshore Tackle came up with a new product called the Easy Crankbait Tuner. It's got some unique features that make it much easier to tune crankbaits. There are a couple things about the Easy Crankbait Tuner that make it unique. For example, it has 2 jaws, just like a pair of pliers, but the jaws are offset. The long jaw is designed to go along the side of the crankbait bill, and the short jaw actually goes up against the pull point. The reason for this is it gives you much more control to make minute adjustments to the pull point. The other feature is that the cam-operated jaws are spring adjustable. By making slight adjustments to the spring tension, you can get just the perfect setting so that you can make minute adjustments to the pull point on any crankbait, including small lures that would be used for crappie, walleye, bass fishing lures, pike, musky lures, even saltwater lures can be tuned with the Easy Crankbait Tuner. If you're frustrated by using a needle nose pliers to tune your crankbaits, check out the Easy Crankbait Tuner. It'll make you a better crankbait fisherman. Well, this week's episode is based out of a place called Lac La Belle Lodge. And the reason we're here, it's in the Upper Peninsula, it's in the Keweenaw Peninsula of the Upper Peninsula. But the reason we're here, it's one of the best kickoff places if you want to fish a place called Stannard Rock. This is a pretty decent fish. As the day has progressed here, we've gone from this jigging thing to this casting thing, and both have paid big dividends today, but casting definitely has it's been so fun. High quality fish like what I got on here, and to catch them casting with lightweight spinning tackle. Oh man, that's fun. Look at that. Is that fish not gorgeous? That don't put pitter pat in your heart. I don't know what would. Oh man, it's a nice fish. Love it. Okay, let me pick up on him a little bit more here and we'll see if I can't get his head up for you. They are so powerful. You don't, these fish own you, you don't own them. Nice. That's a good reason to come to Stannard Rock. Catch beautiful, beautiful lake trout like that. I'm telling you, at this place, it just doesn't get much better. One of the things that's important to understand about Stannard Rock, it's a pretty good sized reef complex. It's about a mile wide and about 5 miles long. And all of that water is not good water. You have to search around in there and find the spots on the spots. Typically what produce the best fish for us are what I would call stovepipe style structures. You're going along in 150 feet of water and then all of a sudden reef comes right up out of nowhere, and then the plateaus and the tops of those reefs tend to hold the most fish. So the way to find these fish is to move around until you've located these fish and then camp on them and catch them.
This is another one of those spots that we've just kind of pulled up on. We've literally only been here for maybe a couple minutes. I think, you know, there's been some spots, whoa, look at that fish go, look at that drag. I don't think she's ready to come in yet. You know, this is a spot we just actually pulled up on, and that's what we've done all day long. It's been kind of a hopscotch game. We were lucky enough to get to fish with Travis White, and he switched over his waypoint so on my graph so I could see, you know, where these spots on a spot type thing is. And we've jumped from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint. And the crazy thing is there's been fish on every single one of these waypoints. Some have been better than others, but every single one of them have had fish. So when you're coming out here and you're looking, I don't think finding fish is gonna be an issue out here on Stannard Rock. Finding biting fish is just gonna take patience. And the only way to do that is to go from spot to spot. Sooner or later, you're gonna find an active pot of fish. When you do, save a waypoint on that. And then after a couple of years of coming out here to the rock, you'll have a nice set of waypoints that you can come to and kind of a milk run of where these good fishing spots are. She wants to go. She wants to go.
Additional considerations provided by Procure, ruthlessly effective bait scents.
Oh my God, you guys see that? Oh my God. Let me get him in the scoop. Wow. Look at that. How much better does that get right there? A big, big Lake Superior lake trout. Crystal clear water. Kind of speechless right now. That's exactly what you come to Stannard Rock for, is a size of trout like that, and on a jig. A jigging rod, how much better does it get than that?
What do you think of that, Dale?
All right.
Now that is a Stannard Rock lake trout.
All right.
My word. Oh, baby.
I haven't fully pulled tight on him yet, but I was actually reeling it straight up. I let that one sink all the way down to the bottom. Yeah, that's a good fish, Travis.
Jake, that looks real good.
You know, like I said, you got to find yourself a good guide, because he gave me the bait that he just caught that last big one on. I tie it on, make 10 casts, and now I'm catching a big one, so that's pretty darn cool. Yeah, baby.
Oh yeah, Jake.
Yeah, baby.
Big fish.
Coming down to the depths.
Big fish.
Look at that. Take me right back down to the bottom again. Look at that reel.
And that's exactly like that last one.
Oh, he does not want to quit.
I've seen a lot of big fish get caught, and this one's definitely in the big fish category. Whenever a rod's bent like that, we yell, big net, big net. You know, a lot of times we'll have a smaller net for some of these, you know, medium-sized fish we catch, and it's a good sign.
I just want to yell big net all the time, you know.
Well, Jake, you only
Another
have one
big
size
one.
net. You must only catch big fish,
That's
man.
it. That's it. I had some high expectations coming to the rock. You know, I've mentioned it multiple times today, but it's a bucket list destination. We've done multiple shows here at Stannard Rock, and we get a lot of people that'll email us after the show airs and stuff and talk about how it's been on their bucket list for 20, 25, 30 years. It needs to go to the top of your bucket list. It's a cool, cool destination to come and catch big, giant lake trout, and about as remote as you can possibly be. I mean,
Sure
we're a
enough.
long ways away from home.
Geez, Jake, you've been pretty quiet here for a little while. It's gotta be a good fish, man.
Just hooking them is one thing.
Yeah.
Getting them to the boat's a whole nother story. And
Oh, yeah.
it's been a long day on the water, and we've been blessed with catching some good fish, a lot of fish. I mean, just trout in general, we caught a lot today.
Right.
But being able to catch the one that we came here for, and I got, you know, the big fish that we caught today, we obviously came here to catch those.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it never gets old, my friend. It never gets old. If you wanted my blood pumping, you got it. Look at this dinosaur, Travis.
That's a big fish,
Oh
Jake.
my God, man. We gotta get this thing in there. Get him in there. Yeah! What a giant, Travis. That thing is massive.
Jake. Yeah, buddy.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, this just cost you a fortune.
Oh boy.
Oh, boy.
I wish on camera you could feel how hard my chest is pumping right now. That is a monster.
Oh, this is a toad of a fish. A toad of a fish. That's probably getting into the mid to upper 30s at the very least, I bet you, Jake.
Goodness. Oh, baby. I think it goes without saying, you need to come to Stannard Rock. Where else are you going to catch a lake trout of that size? That is not only a fish of a lifetime, that's a fish of 10 lifetimes.
And Jake's a big guy, and this fish is making you struggle, man.
Yeah, that's a big fish.
Look at these fins. I mean, the size of our hands here, the tail, the power of these fish, incredible.
Wow, we're going to keep them alive while keeping them drinking, because that's... Travis, how old do you think that fish is?
When a fish gets up to this size, Jake, in Lake Superior, they're growing less than a half a pound to a pound per year maximum. That's probably at least a 50-year-old fish. This thing's been out here forever. It's been out here since this lake has probably been manned, I bet you.
That is unbelievable. Just think about that, how long this fish has been in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
We're not ready for him to end his life in the Great Lakes,
No.
so we want to get some pictures, and we want to get her back.
Yeah.
Unbelievable fight.
Yeah.
Travis, it goes without saying, my friend, thank you so much for taking us out here, showing us your numbers, that kind of stuff. But you gotta come to Stannard Rock. Look at that trout, baby. That's a giant. Hey, we'll see you here same time, same place next week. I'm speechless,
That's
my
awesome,
friend.
Jake. Let's get this big old girl back.
Closed captioning is provided by Fishhawk Electronics. Fishing 411 is brought to you by Offshore Tackle, Yakima Bait, Starcraft Marine, Jay's Sporting Goods, Cisco Fishing Systems, Smooth Moves, Precision Trolling Data, Niagara Falls, USA, Motor Guide Electric Motors, and Lowrance Electronics.
I'm gonna try to pull him back.
Yep.
Look at that fish coming up. He's right here, Travis.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Look at that fish coming up.
Jake,
What a gorgeous lake
this is a
trout.
40-incher right here.
Wow, scoop that fish, Travis.
There we go, Jake.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, what a fish.
Yeah, Jake.
That baby's
We just
going.
got it done.